Marcus Rodriguez pushed his cleaning cart down the long hallway. The wheels squeaked softly on the shiny marble floor. It was 11 p.m. and the big office building was quiet now. All the business people had gone home hours ago. Only Marcus was there, cleaning up after them. He was 38 years old, but he looked older. His black hair had gray streaks now. His hands were rough from years of hard work. Deep lines showed around his brown eyes when he smiled, which was not very often these days. Marcus wore a blue uniform with his name tag on the front. The uniform was clean but old. He had been wearing the same type of uniform for almost 10 years now. He worked at Henderson Corporate Plaza, a tall glass building in downtown Chicago. 40 floors of offices, meeting rooms, and fancy restaurants. Every night, Marcus came to work when everyone else was leaving. He would start on the first floor and work his way up. He emptied trash cans, wiped down desks, cleaned bathrooms, and mopped floors. He knew every corner of this building better than his own small apartment. The people who worked here during the day never really saw him. He was like a ghost who cleaned up their mess while they slept. They left coffee cups on their desks, dropped papers on the floor, and spilled food in the break rooms. Marcus cleaned it all without complaining. He liked the quiet. During the day, this building was full of noise. People talking loudly on phones, meetings happening behind closed doors, printers running, elevators dinging. But at night it was peaceful. Just Marcus and the soft hum of the air conditioning. Sometimes he would look out the big windows at the city lights. Chicago looked beautiful at night. The streets were lit up like Christmas lights. Cars moved like tiny bugs with headlights. People walked on the sidewalks far below, looking like ants. But Marcus did not have time to look out windows for long. He had work to do, lots of work. 40 floors was a lot to clean in one night. He had to be fast, but he also had to be careful. He took pride in his work, even if no one noticed. Marcus had not always been a janitor. When he was young, he had big dreams. He wanted to be a musician. He could play the piano better than anyone in his neighborhood. His teacher said he had a gift. They said he could be famous one day. He got a scholarship to go to college. Northwestern University wanted him to study music. His parents were so proud. His girlfriend Maria was happy too. She said she would wait for him while he became a star, but life had other plans. When Marcus was 20, Maria told him she was going to have a baby. They were not married yet. They were both scared. Marcus had a choice to make. He could go to college and follow his dreams, or he could stay and take care of his family. He chose family. He always chose family. Marcus and Maria got married in a small church. Emma was born 9 months later. She was the most beautiful baby Marcus had ever seen. She had big brown eyes just like her mother. When she wrapped her tiny fingers around his big finger, Marcus knew he had made the right choice, but it was hard. Very hard. Marcus had to find work fast. He could not go to college anymore. He needed money for diapers, baby food, and rent. He took the first job he could find, working at a factory. The pay was not good, but it was something. Years went by fast. Emma learned to walk, then talk, then read. She was smart like her father. She loved to hear him sing lullabies at bedtime. Sometimes he would hum while he worked around their small apartment. When Emma was 5, something terrible happened. Maria got sick, very sick. The doctor said she had cancer. Marcus was scared, but he tried to stay strong for Emma and Maria. Maria fought the cancer for 2 years. Marcus worked 2 jobs to pay for her medicine. He worked at the factory during the day and cleaned offices at night. He barely slept. He was always tired, but he never gave up. Maria died when Emma was 7. Marcus felt like his world had ended. How could he raise Emma alone? How could he work and take care of her? Who would help them now? But Emma needed him. She was all he had left of Maria, so Marcus kept going. He quit the factory job because it was during the day when Emma was at school. He needed to be home when she got back. The night cleaning job at Henderson Plaza paid better anyway. Now Emma was 8 years old. She was in 3rd grade and doing well in school. She was smart and kind, just like her mother. She had Maria's smile and Marcus's love for music. Sometimes she would sing songs she learned at school. Her voice was sweet and clear. Every morning when Marcus got home from work, he would make Emma breakfast, usually eggs and toast or cereal if they were running late. He would pack her lunch in a brown paper bag. He always wrote a little note and put it inside with her sandwich. Things like, "Have a great day," or "Daddy loves you." After Emma went to school, Marcus would sleep for a few hours. Then he would wake up, do laundry, clean their apartment, and buy groceries. When Emma came home, they would do her homework together. Marcus was good at math and reading. He helped her with everything. In the evenings, they would watch TV together or read books. Emma loved stories about princesses and animals. Marcus loved watching her face when she got excited about a story. She would laugh and clap her hands. Those moments made all the hard work. Marcus saved every penny he could. He wanted Emma to go to college someday. He wanted her to have all the chances he never had. He bought her clothes at thrift stores and cooked meals at home instead of buying fast food. Every dollar saved was a dollar for Emma's future. Some nights at work, Marcus felt very tired. His back hurt from bending over to clean floors. His hands were dry and cracked from all the cleaning chemicals. He would think about his old dreams sometimes. What would have happened if he had gone to college? What if he had become a famous piano player? But then he would think about Emma sleeping safely in their apartment. He would remember her smile when he picked her up from school. He would think about the way she hugged him tight before bed. Those thoughts made him feel better. Marcus was not a famous musician. He was not rich or important. But he was a good father. He was doing his best to raise Emma right. He was teaching her to work hard, be kind, and never give up. That was more important than any dream he had given up. The building was quiet as Marcus finished cleaning the 10th floor. He still had 30 more floors to go, but he did not mind. This job let him take care of Emma. It put food on their table and a roof over their heads. It was honest work. As he pushed his cart toward the elevator, Marcus hummed a soft tune. It was an old song Maria used to love. He still missed her every day, but the music helped him remember the good times. Music was still part of his life, even if he could not play piano anymore. Tomorrow was Saturday. Emma did not have school. Maybe they would go to the park and feed the ducks, or visit the library to get new books. Simple things, but they made both of them happy. Marcus smiled as he pressed the button for the 11th floor. He had work to do. Marcus reached the 35th floor of Henderson Corporate Plaza. This was one of the fancy floors where the big bosses worked. The offices here were much larger than the ones on lower floors. The desks were made of real wood, not cheap plastic. The chairs cost more than Marcus made in a month. He pushed his cart slowly down the carpeted hallway. The carpet here was thick and soft, not like the thin carpet on other floors. His cartwheels made almost no sound. Everything on this floor was designed to show how important these people were. As Marcus cleaned each office, he looked at the pictures on the desks. Happy families on vacation, children in graduation caps, weddings and birthday parties. These people had good lives. They could afford nice things for their families. They took trips to places Marcus had only seen on TV. He was not jealous, just curious. What would it feel like to have that much money? What would it feel like to never worry about paying the rent or buying groceries? Marcus tried not to think about these things too much. It made him sad sometimes. The biggest office on the 35th floor belonged to the CEO, Eleanor Chun. Marcus had seen her a few times when he worked late, and she stayed at the office. She was a small Asian woman with short black hair. She always wore expensive suits and carried a leather briefcase. She seemed nice enough, always nodding hello when she saw him, but the office Marcus liked best was the conference room at the end of the hall. This room was huge, with a long wooden table that could seat 20 people. Big windows showed the entire city. But what caught Marcus's attention every single night was the piano. It was a beautiful black grand piano sitting in the corner of the room. A Steinway, according to the gold letters on the side. Marcus knew about pianos. This one probably cost more than he would make in 5 years. Maybe 10 years. The piano sat there like a sleeping giant. No one ever played it. Marcus had worked here for 3 years, and he had never seen anyone even touch it. It was just decoration, something to impress clients during big meetings. Look how fancy we are. We have a piano in our conference room. Every night when Marcus cleaned this room, he would stop and look at the piano. The black surface was always dusty. He would carefully wipe it down with his cloth, being extra gentle. He knew how to take care of a piano. His mother had taught him when he was little. Sometimes, when he was sure no one else was in the building, Marcus would lift the lid and look at the keys. They were perfect, white and black in the pattern he remembered from his childhood. 80 keys, each one waiting to make music. He would run his finger along the keys without pressing them. He did not want to make any sound. He was just a janitor. He was not supposed to touch expensive things like this. But oh, how his fingers wanted to press those keys. Marcus remembered the first time he ever saw a piano. He was 6 years old, and his mother took him to church. There was an old, upright piano in the corner, and Mrs. Garcia was playing hymns. Before the service started, the music filled the small church like magic. After church, Marcus asked his mother if he could touch the piano. Mrs. Garcia was kind and let him press a few keys. The sound was amazing. Each key made a different note. When he pressed them together, they made chords. When he pressed them one after another, they made melodies. Mrs. Garcia saw something special in little Marcus. She offered to teach him to play for free. His parents were happy but worried. They did not have money for a piano at home. How could Marcus practice? But Mrs. Garcia had a solution. Marcus could come to the church after school and practice on their piano. Every day he would walk to the church and play for 2 hours. Mrs. Garcia taught him everything she knew. Marcus was a natural. His fingers seemed to know where to go on the keys. He learned songs faster than other children. By the time he was 10, he could play anything Mrs. Garcia put in front of him. Classical music, church hymns, even popular songs from the radio. When Marcus was 12, Mrs. Garcia said she had taught him everything she could. She talked to his parents about finding him a better teacher, someone who could help him become really good, maybe even good enough to make money playing piano. His parents found a music teacher at the community college. Mr. Peterson was strict but kind. He made Marcus practice scales and exercises that were boring but important. He taught Marcus about composers like Mozart and Chopin. He helped Marcus understand music theory and how to read complicated sheet music. By high school, Marcus was the best piano player anyone in his neighborhood had ever heard. He played at church every Sunday. He played at school concerts and talent shows. People would ask him to play at their weddings and parties. His high school music teacher, Miss Rodriguez, believed Marcus had real talent. She helped him apply to music schools. Northwestern University offered him a full scholarship. They wanted him to study classical piano performance. Ms. Rodriguez said he could become a professional pianist, maybe even play with a symphony orchestra. Marcus was so excited. Finally, his dreams were coming true. He would go to a famous university and study music. He would learn from the best teachers. Maybe someday he would play in concert halls and make records, but then Maria told him about the baby. Marcus shook his head, trying to stop thinking about the past. It did not help to remember what might have been. He had made his choice. Emma was more important than any dream. He finished wiping down the piano and put the lid back down. As he did every night, he whispered, "Good night, beautiful." It was silly, but the piano felt like an old friend. A friend who understood the music that was still inside him. Marcus moved on to clean the rest of the conference room. He wiped down the big table and cleaned the windows. He vacuumed the carpet and emptied the trash cans. But his mind kept going. Back to the piano. Sometimes late at night, when the building was completely empty, Marcus would come back to this room. He would sit on the piano bench and close his eyes. He would imagine his fingers moving across the keys, playing all the songs he used to know. He remembered Chopin's nocturnes, so beautiful and sad. He remembered Bach's inventions, like mathematical puzzles made of music. He remembered Debussy's Impressionist pieces that sounded like water or wind or moonlight. Maria had loved Debussy. Her favorite piece was Clair de Lune, which meant moonlight in French. Marcus used to play it for her when they were dating. She would close her eyes and smile, and he would play it over and over just to see that happy look on her face after. Maria died. Marcus could not listen to Clair de Lune anymore. It made him too sad. But sometimes, sitting at this piano bench in the empty conference room, he would hear it in his head. Every note, every phrase, exactly as he used to play it. Marcus stood up from the piano bench and gathered his cleaning supplies. He had spent too much time here tonight. He still had 5 more floors to clean before his shift ended. As he pushed his cart toward the door, he turned back one more time to look at the piano. In the dim light, it looked like a beautiful black mountain, full of music waiting to be set free. Maybe in another life, Marcus whispered to himself. Then he turned off the lights and continued his work. The next morning, Marcus walked home through the quiet streets of Chicago. The sun was just coming up, painting the sky pink and orange. Most people were still sleeping, but Marcus was finishing his workday. He thought about Emma, probably still asleep in her small bed. Soon she would wake up and want breakfast. They would sit at their little kitchen table and eat together. She would tell him about her dreams, and he would listen carefully to every word. Emma was his music now. Her laughter was better than any symphony. Her voice when she called Daddy was sweeter than any piano song. She was the most beautiful song he had ever been part of creating. Marcus smiled as he climbed the stairs to their apartment. He would take a shower, make Emma breakfast, and help her get ready for school. Then he would sleep for a few hours before she came home. Tonight he would go back to work. He would clean 40 floors, including the 35th floor with its beautiful, silent piano. He would wipe it down carefully and maybe sit on the bench for a few minutes, remembering old songs, but he would not be sad about it, not anymore. He had chosen love over dreams, and he would make that choice again. Emma was worth every sacrifice. She was worth every dream he had given up. The music was still inside him. It always would be, but now it had a different melody. Now it was the song of a father's love, and that was the most beautiful music of all. It was Friday night, and Marcus was running a little behind schedule. Emma had been sick with a cold all week, and he had stayed home 2 extra hours that morning to take care of her. She was feeling better now, safely asleep at their neighbor Mrs. Patterson's apartment. Mrs. Patterson was an elderly lady who sometimes watched Emma when Marcus had to work late or when Emma was too sick for school. Marcus pushed his cleaning cart off the elevator onto the 35th floor. Usually by this time the entire building was empty, but tonight was different. He could hear voices coming from the conference room at the end of the hall. Loud voices and laughter. He moved quietly toward the room, wondering if he should come back later. Sometimes the important business people had late meetings, and Marcus did not want to bother them. He would just check quickly and see if they needed anything, then come back to clean when they were gone. As he got closer to the conference room, Marcus could smell alcohol. Someone had been drinking. The voices were getting louder and more careless. These were not serious business people having a meeting. This was a party. Marcus knocked softly on the door and pushed it open just a little bit. "Excuse me," he said quietly. "I'm sorry to bother you. I am the janitor. Do you need anything?" Inside the room were 5 young men in expensive suits. Marcus recognized some of them. They worked on different floors of the building during the day. Junior executives, the kind who made good money but were not quite bosses yet. They were sitting around the big conference table with bottles of beer and whiskey. "Hey, look, it is the night janitor," said one of them, a blond man with a red face from drinking. Marcus thought his name was Brad something. He had seen him around the building before, usually acting like he owned the place. "Do not worry about U.S. janitor man," said Brad, waving his beer bottle in the air. "We are just celebrating. Johnson here got a big promotion today. We are having a little party." The other men laughed and raised their bottles. They looked at Marcus like he was some kind of entertainment, not a real person. Their eyes were shiny, from alcohol, and they had the mean look that some people get when they drink too much. "Actually," said Brad, standing up and walking toward Marcus, "maybe you can help us with something. We were just talking about this piano here." He pointed toward the beautiful Steinway in the corner. "None of us know how to play it. It just sits there looking pretty." Marcus nodded politely. "It is a very nice piano," he said. He wanted to leave and come back when they were gone, but Brad was blocking his way to the door. "I bet you have never even seen a piano this nice before, have you?" said another man, a dark-haired guy with expensive glasses. "This thing probably costs more than you make in 10 years. The men laughed again. Marcus felt his face getting hot, but he stayed calm. He had dealt with rude people before. The best thing to do was just agree with them and leave as quickly as possible. "You are probably right," Marcus said quietly. "It is very expensive. I should let you get back to your celebration." But Brad was not done yet. The alcohol had made him mean and stupid. He had an idea that he thought was very funny. "Wait a minute," he said, grinning at his friends. "I just had a great idea. Hey, janitor, what is your name?" "Marcus," he answered, even though he did not want to. "Marcus the janitor," Brad repeated like it was hilarious. "Well, Marcus, I bet you have never touched a real piano in your life. Am I right?" "A guy like you probably does not know anything about music." Marcus did not answer. His hands were starting to shake a little. These men were making fun of him, and there was nothing he could do about it. He needed this job. He could not afford to make them angry. "Come on, Marcus," Brad continued, pulling out his phone. "Play us a song. I bet it will be hilarious. A janitor trying to play a $100,000 piano." The other men were pulling out their phones too. They wanted to record whatever happened next. They probably thought they could put it on the internet and make fun of Marcus with all their friends. "I really should go," Marcus said, trying to step around Brad. "You gentlemen can enjoy your party," but Brad grabbed his arm. Not hard, but firm enough to stop him. "Oh, come on, do not be shy. Just press a few keys. What could it hurt? I promise we will not tell anyone if you are terrible." The other men were laughing and encouraging Brad. "Yeah, come on, janitor," said one. "Play us a song," said another. "This will be so funny," said a third. Marcus looked at their faces. They were not mean people, not really. They were just drunk and thoughtless. They saw him as someone to laugh at, not someone with real feelings. In their world, janitors were not real people. They were just part of the furniture, there to clean up their messes and be invisible. But something inside Marcus was stirring. Maybe it was anger at being treated like a joke. Maybe it was sadness at being looked down on by people who did not know anything about him. Maybe it was just tiredness from working so hard for so many years while people like this had everything handed to them. "Play us something funny," Brad said, still recording with his phone. "Something that matches your skill level. Maybe Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star?" The men roared with laughter. Marcus felt something snap inside his chest. These people had no idea who he was or what he had given up. They thought he was just some poor, stupid janitor who had never seen anything beautiful in his life. Marcus looked at the piano. His old friend, sitting there quiet and patient, waiting, always waiting for someone to bring it to life. For 3 years he had cleaned this piano every night and dreamed of playing it just once. Just once to remember what it felt like to make music. "All right," Marcus said quietly. The room got a little quieter. The men looked surprised. They had not expected him to actually do it. "Really?" Brad said, grinning and holding up his phone to get a better angle. "This is going to be great. Guys, you have to get this." All 5 phones were pointed at Marcus now. 5 drunk young men waiting for him to embarrass himself. 5 people who had no idea what they were about to witness. Marcus walked slowly toward the piano. His heart was beating fast, but his hands were steady now. He had not played a piano in 18 years. Not since the day Emma was born, and he realized his old life was over. But as he got closer to the Steinway, something magical happened. The years melted away. Suddenly, he was not a tired janitor in a worn-out uniform. He was Marcus Rodriguez, the music student. Marcus Rodriguez, who had gotten a full scholarship to Northwestern. Marcus Rodriguez, who could make people cry with his playing, He sat down on the piano bench and adjusted it to the right height. The men behind him were still laughing and making comments, but their voices seemed far away now. Marcus lifted the lid of the piano and looked down at the keys. 88 keys. Black and white, waiting for him like old friends who had never forgotten his name. Marcus placed his hands on the keyboard. His fingers remembered exactly where to go. Middle C, the home position, the place where every song begins. "This should be good," he heard Brad whisper to his friends. "I cannot wait to post this online." Marcus closed his eyes and took a deep breath. What song should he play? Something these men would recognize? Something simple that would not embarrass him if his fingers had forgotten how to move. But then he thought about Maria. He thought about all those nights when he would play for her in his tiny apartment on the old electric keyboard his parents had bought him for Christmas. He thought about how she would close her eyes and smile when he played her favorite song. Chopin, Nocturne in E-flat major, Opus 9, number 2, one of the most beautiful pieces ever written. One of the hardest pieces he had ever learned to play perfectly. Marcus opened his eyes, looked down at the keys, and began to play. The first note filled the room like a prayer. Soft, gentle, perfect. Then the melody began to flow from his fingers like water from a spring. Every note was exactly where it should be. Every phrase was shaped with the skill of someone who had spent years learning to make music speak. Behind him, the laughter stopped. The room became completely silent except for the piano. Marcus played the opening theme, then the more complicated middle section, then back to the theme again. His fingers moved across the keys like they had been doing this every day for the past 18 years, not cleaning floors and emptying trash cans. The music was not just technically perfect. It was full of emotion. Every note carried the weight of Marcus's sacrifice, his love for Maria, his devotion to Emma, and his years of quiet dignity in the face of people who looked down on him as he played. Marcus forgot about the men recording him. He forgot about their cruel laughter and their expensive suits. He forgot about everything except the music flowing through him and out into the world. The piano sang under his hands, finally free to do what it was made for. This beautiful instrument that had been silent for so many years was alive again, telling a story of love and loss and the dreams we give up for the people we care about. When the last note faded away, the silence in the room was complete. Marcus sat still for a moment, his hands resting on the keys, remembering what it felt like to be a musician again. Then he turned around to face the 5 men who had been making fun of him. Their faces had changed completely. The mocking smiles were gone, the cruel laughter had died. Some of them looked shocked. Others looked ashamed. One of them had tears in his eyes. Marcus sat at the piano bench, looking at the 5 men who had been laughing at him just minutes before. Their faces were completely different now. The mean smiles were gone. The cruel jokes had stopped. They stared at him like they were seeing him for the first time. Brad, the blond man who had started all this, slowly lowered his phone. His mouth was open and he looked confused. That was ... He started to say, then stopped. He could not find the words. "How did you do that?" asked Johnson, the man they had been celebrating. His voice was quiet and respectful now. "Where did you learn to play like that?" Marcus did not answer right away. He was still feeling the music in his fingers, still remembering what it was like to be complete again. For those few minutes he had not been just a janitor. He had been Marcus the musician, the young man with dreams and talent and a future full of possibilities, but now reality was coming back. He was still wearing his blue uniform with the name tag. He was still surrounded by these rich young men who saw him as entertainment. He was still just the night janitor who cleaned up their messes. "I used to play when I was younger," Marcus said quietly. He started to stand up from the piano bench, but his legs felt weak. Playing that song had taken more out of him than cleaning 40 floors ever did. "Wait," said Brad, and his voice was completely different now. Gone was the mocking tone and cruel laughter. "Please do not go yet. That was incredible. That was the most beautiful thing I have ever heard." The other men nodded in agreement. One of them, a man with dark hair and glasses, wiped his eyes. "I had no idea," he said. We thought you were just—" He could not finish the sentence. He was too ashamed of what they had thought. Marcus felt uncomfortable with all this attention. For 3 years, these people had looked right through him like he was invisible. Now they were staring at him like he was some kind of miracle. He did not like either way of being treated. "I should go," Marcus said again. "You gentlemen can get back to your celebration." "No, please," said Johnson, standing up from his chair. "Please stay. Play something else." "Anything else?" Marcus shook his head. "I do not think that is a good idea. I have work to do." But even as he said it, Marcus felt something pulling him back to the piano. For 18 years, music had been locked away inside him like a prisoner. Tonight, for just a few minutes, it had been free. The feeling was amazing and terrible at the same time. "Just one more song," Brad said, and there was no mocking in his voice now. "Please, that was the most incredible thing I have ever witnessed." Marcus looked at their faces. These men who had been so cruel just minutes ago now looked like children who had just seen magic for the first time. They had no idea what they had done to him. They had no idea that their joke had opened a door inside him that had been closed for almost 20 years. "What song would you like to hear?" Marcus asked, sitting back down at the piano bench. He could not help himself. The music was calling to him, begging to be let out again. "Anything," said Johnson. "Whatever you want to play." Marcus thought. For a moment, what other song could he remember completely? What other piece had his fingers memorized so well that 18 years could not erase it? Then he smiled sadly. He knew exactly what to play. "This was my wife's favorite song," he said, placing his hands on the keys again. "She died 3 years ago, but she loved this piece. It is called Clair de Lune by Claude Debussy." The men sat down in their chairs and got quiet. They could tell this was something special, something sacred. Marcus closed his eyes and began to play. If the Chopin had been beautiful, this was transcendent. The opening notes of Clair de Lune floated through the room like moonlight itself. The melody was simple but perfect, like a lullaby for angels. Marcus played with his whole heart. He thought about Maria lying in the hospital bed, asking him to play this song on the little electronic keyboard he had brought to her room. He thought about how she would smile even when she was in pain, how the music seemed to make her feel better for a little while. The piano responded to every emotion Marcus felt. When the melody was sad, the notes seemed to weep. When it was hopeful, they seemed to dance. This was not just playing the piano. This was pouring his soul out through his fingertips. As he played, Marcus remembered everything. The first time he had learned this piece, practicing it over and over until it was perfect. The first time he had played it for Maria, how her eyes had lit up with joy. The last time he had played it in the hospital room just hours before she died. The music filled the conference room and seemed to spread throughout the entire building. It was the sound of love and loss, of dreams given up and sacrifices made. It was the sound of a man who had chosen family over fame, duty over dreams. When the last note faded away, there was complete silence. Marcus kept his eyes closed, not ready to come back to the real world yet. In his mind, he could still see Maria's face, still feel her hand in his. "Oh my God," someone whispered. Marcus opened his eyes and saw that all 5 men were crying. Not just a little bit, but real tears running down their faces. Brad was shaking his head in amazement. "I have never heard anything like that in my life," he said. "That was not just music, that was— I do not know what that was." "It was love," said the man with glasses, wiping his eyes with his expensive handkerchief. "You could hear it in every note. The love for your wife." Marcus stood up from the piano bench and closed the lid gently. His hands were trembling now, and he felt emotionally drained. Playing those songs had been like opening an old wound. "Beautiful but painful. Thank you for listening," he said quietly. "I have not played piano in 18 years. Not since my daughter was born." "You have a daughter?" asked Johnson. "Yes, Emma. She is 8 years old." Marcus smiled when he said her name, the way he always did. "She is the most important thing in my life." "Is that why you stopped playing?" Brad asked. Because you had a family to take care of? Marcus nodded. I had a scholarship to Northwestern University. I was going to study music performance. But when Maria got pregnant, I knew I had to make a choice. I chose them. The men looked at each other, understanding finally dawning on their faces. They were beginning to realize who Marcus really was. Not just a janitor, but a man who had given up his dreams for love. Do you ever regret it? Asked the man with glasses. Marcus thought about the question for a moment. It was something he had asked himself many times over the years, especially in the dark moments when money was tight and he was working 2 jobs and Maria was sick. No, he said finally, I do not regret it. Maria and Emma have given me more happiness than any career could have. Music is beautiful, but love is everything. But you are so talented, Brad said. You could have been famous. You could have played in concert halls all over the world, Marcus smiled. Maybe, or maybe I would have failed and ended up bitter and alone. We cannot know what might have been. We can only know what is. He picked up his cleaning supplies and started to head for the door. I really do need to get back to work now. I still have 5 floors to clean before morning. Wait, said Johnson, jumping up from his chair. You cannot just clean floors. Not after what we just heard? You have to do something with this talent. I do something with it, Marcus said. I sing lullabies to my daughter. That is enough for me. The men watched him walk toward the door, all of them still stunned by what they had witnessed. They had come to the office to celebrate and have some fun. They had expected to make jokes at the expense of the night janitor. Instead, they had discovered something extraordinary. They had met a man who had sacrificed his dreams for love and had never complained about it. They had heard music played with a depth of emotion they had never experienced before. As Marcus reached the door, Brad called out to him one more time. Marcus, wait, I want to apologize. We were cruel to you tonight. We had no right to treat you that way. Marcus turned back and looked at him. You did not know, he said simply. People see what they expect to see. Tonight you saw something different. That is enough. But we were wrong, said Johnson. We judged you without knowing anything about you. That was not right. We are all guilty of that sometimes, Marcus said. The important thing is what you do when you realize your mistake. He opened the door to leave, then paused and looked back one more time at the beautiful piano. Thank you, he whispered to it. Thank you for letting me remember. Then he walked out into the hallway, pushing his cleaning cart toward the next floor. Behind him, the 5 men sat in stunned silence, their phones still in their hands, their celebration completely forgotten. They had recorded something they would never forget. Not a joke to laugh at, but a moment of pure beauty created by a man they had completely misjudged. A man who had more dignity and grace in his little finger than they had in their entire bodies. The night was quiet again as Marcus continued his work, but something had changed forever. The music was awake inside him again, and it would never go back to sleep. Eleanor Chun had been working late again. As the CEO of Henderson Corporate Plaza, she often stayed in her office until midnight, reviewing reports and preparing for the next day's meetings. At 45, she had built her company from nothing into one of Chicago's most successful businesses. But success came with a price, and that price was long, lonely nights at the office. She had been about to leave when she remembered the contract sitting on her desk. Important papers that needed to be signed before the weekend. With a tired sigh, Eleanor decided to go back to her office and take care of them. She could sign them quickly and then finally go home to her empty apartment. Eleanor's office was on the 35th floor, right next to the big conference room. She had her key card ready to unlock her door when she heard something that made her stop completely. Piano music. Beautiful, perfect piano music coming from the conference room. Next door. Eleanor stood frozen in the hallway, listening. Someone was playing Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, and they were playing it better than she had ever heard it played before. The notes were crystal clear, each phrase shaped with incredible skill and deep emotion. But who could be playing? Eleanor knew everyone who worked on this floor, and none of them were musicians. The piano in the conference room was just for show, an expensive decoration to impress clients. In the 3 years since they had bought it, Eleanor had never heard anyone play it. She moved quietly toward the conference room door, which was slightly open. She could hear voices inside, men laughing and talking. Some of the junior executives must be having a late party. But the piano music was so beautiful, so professional, that it could not be one of them playing. Eleanor peeked through the crack in the door and saw 5 young men sitting around the conference table with bottles of beer and whiskey. She recognized them all: Brad Hutchins, the marketing director's son, Johnson from accounting, and 3 others from various departments, but at the piano sat someone she did not expect to see. Marcus Rodriguez, the night janitor. He was playing with his eyes closed, completely absorbed in the music. His fingers moved across the keys like he had been born to play piano. Eleanor felt her heart skip a beat. She knew good piano playing when she heard it. She had played violin professionally before she went into business. She had performed with symphony orchestras and string quartets. She knew the difference between someone who could play a few songs and someone who was truly gifted. Marcus Rodriguez was truly gifted. As Eleanor watched through the door, Marcus finished the chopping piece and the room fell completely silent. She could see the faces of the 5 men, and they looked stunned. These young executives who usually spent their time bragging about money and talking about sports were sitting there with tears in their eyes. Then Marcus spoke quietly about his wife, about how she had loved Debussy, about how she had died 3 years ago. Eleanor felt her own eyes fill with tears as she listened to his gentle voice. When Marcus began to play Clair de Lune, Eleanor had to lean against the wall to keep from falling down. She knew this piece intimately. She had played it herself many times, both on violin and piano, but she had never heard it played with such pure emotion. This was not just technically perfect playing, though it certainly was that. This was music that came from the deepest part of someone's soul. Every note carried the weight of real experience, real love, real loss. It was the kind of playing that could make you believe in God or break your heart, or both at the same time. Eleanor found herself crying without realizing it. Tears ran down her cheeks as she listened to Marcus pour his heart out through the piano. She understood every emotion he was expressing because she had felt many of the same things herself. Like Marcus, Eleanor had given up music for other responsibilities. She had been a talented violinist, good enough to make a living playing professionally. But when her father's business started failing, she had put down her violin and picked up a briefcase. She had saved the family company and built it into something much bigger than her father had ever imagined, but she had never stopped missing the music. In her apartment, she still had her violin, though she rarely played it anymore. Sometimes late at night, she would take it out and play a few scales, remembering what it felt like to make music instead of money, now listening to Marcus play Clair de Lune with such incredible beauty. Eleanor felt all those old longings come flooding back. She remembered why she had loved music so much, why it had once been the most important thing in her life. When the last note of the Debussy piece faded away, Eleanor could not help herself. She began to clap. The sound of her applause echoed through the conference room like a gunshot. Inside the room, everyone turned to look at the door. The 5 men looked terrified when they saw their CEO standing there. They had been caught drinking in the office after hours, and they probably thought they were about to be fired, but Eleanor only had eyes for Marcus. He looked surprised and embarrassed, like a child who had been caught doing something he was not supposed to do. He started to stand up from the piano bench, his face red with shame. "Please," Eleanor said, walking into the room, "do not stop. That was the most beautiful piano playing I have ever heard." The 5 men scrambled to their feet, trying to hide their beer bottles and look professional. "Miss Chun," Brad stammered, we were celebrating Johnson's promotion. And we asked Marcus to, Eleanor held up her hand to stop him. She was not interested in their explanations or excuses. All she cared about was the music she had just heard. "Where did you learn to play like that?" she asked Marcus directly. Marcus looked down at his feet, clearly uncomfortable with all the attention. I studied piano when I was younger, he said quietly. But that was a long time ago. How long ago? Eleanor pressed. She could tell there was much more to this story. I had a scholarship to Northwestern, Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper, to study music performance, but I never went. Why? Not? Marcus was quiet for a long moment, clearly struggling with whether to tell the truth. Finally, he looked up and met Eleanor's eyes. My girlfriend got pregnant. We needed money for the baby, so I got a job instead of going to college. Eleanor felt her heart break a little bit. She understood completely. She had made the same kind of choice herself, giving up her dreams to take care of her family's needs. And you have been working as a janitor ever since? She asked. Marcus nodded. It is honest work. It pays the bills and lets me take care of my daughter. Your daughter is the baby you mentioned? Yes, Emma. She is 8 now. Marcus's whole face lit up when he said her name, the way it always did. She is the best thing that ever happened to me. Eleanor could see the love in Marcus's eyes when he talked about his daughter. It was the same love she had heard in his piano playing. This was a man who understood what really mattered in life. Would you play something else? Eleanor asked. Please? I used to be a musician myself before I went into business. I know good playing when I hear it, and you have a gift that should not be wasted. Marcus looked uncertain. I do not want to get in trouble. I know I should not have been playing your piano. You are not in trouble, Eleanor said firmly. That piano has been sitting there silent for 3 years. Finally, someone who knows how to play it has set it free. She turned to look at the 5 men who were still standing awkwardly by the conference table. You gentlemen can go, she said. But I would like to speak with Marcus privately. The men gathered their things quickly and headed for the door. As Brad passed Marcus, he stopped and put his hand on his shoulder. I am sorry, he said quietly. I am sorry we treated you badly. We did not know. Marcus nodded and accepted the apology gracefully. It is all right, no harm was done. After the men left, Eleanor and Marcus were alone in the conference room. She sat down in one of the chairs near the piano and looked at this remarkable man who had just turned her entire evening upside down. Will you play something else? She asked again. For me? Please? Marcus sat back down at the piano bench and thought for a moment. What would you like to hear? Whatever speaks to you, Eleanor said. Whatever you feel like playing. Marcus placed his hands on the keys and began to play Bach's Invention No. 1 in C major. It was a simpler piece than the others, but he played it with the same incredible skill and musicality. The notes danced and played with each other like children in a playground. As Eleanor listened, she was transported back to her own musical days. She remembered the joy of making music, the way it felt to be completely absorbed in creating something beautiful. She remembered why she had loved it so much, and she felt a deep sadness for all the years she had lost. When Marcus finished the Bach piece, Eleanor was quiet for a long moment. Then she asked the question that had been burning in her mind since she first heard him play. Do you ever regret giving up music? Marcus considered the question carefully. Sometimes, he said honestly. When I hear a beautiful song on the radio, or when I see a piano like this one, I wonder what might have been. But then I think about Emma, and I know I made the right choice. But you are so talented, Eleanor said. You could have been a professional pianist. You could have played in concert halls, made recordings, become famous. Marcus smiled sadly. Marcus looked at Eleanor Chun with surprise. No one had asked him about Emma in a long time. Most people at work did not even know he had a daughter. But this successful businesswoman, one of the most important people in Chicago, was sitting here asking about his 8-year-old child. Emma loves music, Marcus said, his face lighting up the way it always did when he talked about his daughter. She has a beautiful singing voice. Sometimes I catch her making up songs while she plays with her toys. Does she know that you can play piano? Eleanor asked. Marcus shook his head. She knows I like music. I sing to her sometimes, and we listen to classical music on the radio. But she has never seen me play an instrument. I do not have a piano at home, Eleanor did thoughtfully. What else does Emma like? What are her dreams? She wants to be a teacher, Marcus said with a proud smile. She loves helping other kids learn things. When she grows up, she wants to teach little children how to read and write. She sounds wonderful, Eleanor said. You have done an amazing job raising her. Marcus felt his chest swell with pride. Emma was his whole world, and hearing someone praise her made him happier than any compliment about his piano playing ever could. Can I ask you something? Eleanor said. Do you ever worry about Emma's future? About being able to give her the opportunities she deserves? Marcus felt his stomach tighten. This was his biggest fear, the thing that kept him awake at night. Every day, he said quietly, I want her to go to college. I want her to have choices that I never had, but... He stopped, not wanting to complain about his situation. But it is hard on a janitor's salary, Eleanor finished gently. Marcus nodded. I save every penny I can. I work extra shifts when they are available, but college is so expensive now. I worry that I will not be able to give her what she needs. Eleanor leaned back in her chair and studied Marcus's face. She could see the love and worry there, the fierce determination of a parent who would do anything for his child. Marcus, she said slowly, what if I told you there was a way to change that? A way to use your incredible talent and still be the father Emma needs? Marcus looked confused. I do not understand. Eleanor stood up and walked to the big windows that looked out over the city. The lights of Chicago sparkled below them like stars. 5 years ago, our company started a program, she said. We partner with local schools to bring music education to children who cannot afford private lessons. She turned back to face Marcus. The program has been successful, but we need someone special to run it. Someone who understands both music and struggle. Someone who knows what it means to sacrifice for the people you love. Marcus's heart began to beat faster. What are you saying? I am offering you a job? Eleanor said. Director of our community music program. You would teach piano and music theory to children from low-income families. You would work normal business hours Monday through Friday. And the salary ... quote. She paused, watching his face. The salary would be enough to secure Emma's future. Marcus felt dizzy. This could not be real. Things like this did not happen to people like him. But I am just a janitor, he said. I do not have any teaching experience. You have something better than teaching experience, Eleanor said. You have heart. You have lived the struggle that these children are facing. You understand what music can mean to someone who has very little else. She walked back to the piano and placed her hand on the smooth black surface. This piano will be moved to our new music center, along with 20 others just like it. We are going to create a place where talented children can learn music regardless of their family's income. Marcus stared at her in disbelief. Why would you do this for me? You do not even know me? Eleanor smiled sadly. Because I see myself in you. 20 years ago, I was a violinist. I played with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. Music was my whole life. Marcus's eyes widened. He had no idea. But when my father got sick and his business started failing, I had to choose, Eleanor continued. I could keep playing violin and watch my family lose everything, or I could put down my instrument and save the company. You chose family, just like I did, Marcus said quietly, just like you did. But I have been successful in business, more successful than I ever dreamed. And now I have the chance to give back to music, to help people like us who had to make that impossible choice. Eleanor sat back down and looked directly into Marcus's eyes. I heard something in your playing tonight that I have not heard in 20 years. Pure, honest emotion. The kind of music that can change lives. These children need someone who can teach them more than just how to press keys. They need someone who can teach them that music can heal, that it can give hope, that it can make even the darkest times bearable. Marcus felt tears starting to form in his eyes. I do not know what to say. Say you will think about it, Eleanor said. The job comes with full health insurance for you and Emma. There is also money for continuing education if you want to finish your music degree someday. And Emma, Dot, dot. She paused, smiling. Emma could take lessons as part of the program, for free. Marcus put his head in his hands. This was too much. Too good to be true. What if I am not good enough? What if I fail? You will not fail, Eleanor said firmly. Do you know how I know? Because you love Emma more than anything in the world, and you would never do anything that might hurt her future. That kind of love makes people capable of amazing things. They sat in silence for a few minutes, both lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Marcus looked up and asked, "Can I have some time to think about it? This is the biggest decision I have ever had to make." "Of course," Eleanor said. "Take all the time you need, but Marcus?" She waited until he was looking at her. "Do not let fear make this decision for you. I did that once, and I regretted it for 20 years. What do you mean? Eleanor walked back to the window and looked out at the city lights. After I saved my father's company, I had opportunities to go back to music. Offers to play with orchestras. Chances to teach at music schools, but I was afraid. Afraid that I had been away too long, afraid that I would not be good enough anymore. She turned back to Marcus. So I stayed in business, telling myself that I was being practical. But the truth was I was scared. And now, at 45, I realized that I wasted 20 years being afraid of something that might not have even happened. But you are successful, Marcus pointed out. You built this whole company. Yes, I am successful in business, Eleanor. Agreed, but success without passion is empty. I have money and power and respect, but I do not have joy. Not the kind of joy I felt when I was making music. She walked back to the piano and played a few notes with one finger. Tonight, listening to you play, I remembered what that joy felt like. I remembered why music mattered so much to me. You gave me that gift, Marcus. You reminded me who I used to be. Marcus stood up and walked to the piano. He played the same few notes Eleanor had played, but when he touched the keys, they sang with warmth and life. Music has never left me, he said quietly. Even when I could not play, it was always there inside me. When Emma laughs, it sounds like music. When she sings in the bathtub, it is the most beautiful song I have ever heard. Then you understand what I am trying to tell you, Eleanor said. You have spent 18 years thinking that you gave up music for love. But maybe you just found a different way to make music. Maybe being Emma's father is its own kind of song. Marcus played a soft melody, something simple and sweet that reminded him of Emma. She deserves the best future I can give her, he said. Yes, she does. And maybe that future includes watching her father do what he was born to do. Maybe it includes seeing him happy and fulfilled, using his gifts to help other children like her. Eleanor sat down at the other end of the piano bench. May one? She asked, placing her hands on the upper keys. Marcus nodded and continued playing his simple melody. Eleanor added a harmony, her fingers finding the right notes by instinct and memory. Together, they created something beautiful, a conversation. Between two people who understood the power of music and the price of sacrifice. When they finished playing, Eleanor said, I have not played piano in 10 years. But it felt like coming home. It always does, Marcus agreed. No matter how long you stay away, music remembers you. The children in our program need someone who understands that, Eleanor said. They need someone who knows that music is not just about technique or performance. It is about finding your voice, expressing your heart, connecting with something bigger than yourself. Marcus thought about Emma, about all the times he had wished he could give her music lessons but could not afford them. He thought about other children like Emma, talented kids whose families could not pay for private teachers. How many children would be in the program? He asked. We are starting with 50 students, ages 6 to 16. Eventually, we hope to serve 200 children each year. 50 children, Marcus repeated. 50 young people who might discover the same joy in music that he had found as a child. 50 futures that could be changed by learning to play piano or violin or sing in a choir. The music center is being built in your neighborhood, Eleanor added, just 6 blocks from Emma's school. You would never have to worry about being far from her when she needs you. Marcus walked home that night with his head spinning. The conversation with Eleanor Chun felt like a dream. Could it really be true? Could he actually have a job teaching music? After 18 years of cleaning floors and emptying trash cans, could he really go back to the thing he loved most? He climbed the stairs to his small apartment quietly, not wanting to wake Mrs. Patterson or Emma. His neighbor had left a note saying Emma had eaten dinner and gone to bed early. She was feeling much better and would probably be ready for school. On Monday, Marcus peeked into Emma's room and saw her sleeping peacefully, her dark hair spread across the pillow. She looked so much like Maria when she slept. The same peaceful expression, the same long eyelashes. Marcus felt his heart fill with love as he watched her breathe softly. He sat down on the edge of her bed and gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. "What should I do, baby girl?" he whispered. "Should Daddy take this scary new job?" Emma stirred a little but did not wake up. Marcus kissed her forehead and went to his own room, but he could not sleep. His mind kept going over everything Eleanor had said: a real salary, health insurance, money for Emma's college education, and most of all, the chance to make music again. But what if he failed? What if he was not good enough to teach? What if the children did not like him? What if Eleanor realized she had made a mistake? Marcus got up and made himself a cup of tea. He sat at his small kitchen table and thought about his life. For 18 years, he had focused on just one thing: taking care of Emma and giving her the best life he could. He had worked hard, saved money, and never complained. But he had also played it safe. Very, very safe. Maybe it was time to take a chance. On Monday morning, Marcus called Eleanor's office. His hands were shaking as he dialed the number. "Miss Chun's office," said a friendly voice. "This is Marcus Rodriguez," he said. "Miss Chun asked me to call her today." "Oh yes, Mr. Rodriguez. She has been waiting for your call. Please hold on." A moment later, Eleanor's voice came on the line. "Marcus, I was hoping to hear from you." "Have you made a decision?" Marcus took a deep breath. "Yes, I have. If the offer is still available, I would like to accept the job." There was silence on the other end for a moment, then Eleanor let out a happy laugh. "That is wonderful news. I am so excited to have you join our team. Can you come in this afternoon to discuss the details?" "Yes, I can do that," Marcus said. "But I need to give 2 weeks' notice to the cleaning company." "Of course," Eleanor said. "That shows good character. The music center will not be ready for another month anyway, so the timing is perfect." That afternoon, Marcus put on his best clothes and went to Eleanor's office. It felt strange to be in the building during the day when it was full of people. In suits, talking on phones and rushing to meetings, Eleanor's assistant showed him into her office. It was big and fancy, with windows that looked out over the whole city. Eleanor was sitting behind a huge wooden desk, but she stood up and shook his hand when he came in. "Please sit down," she said, pointing to a comfortable chair. "I have some papers for you to sign, and I want to go over your salary and benefits." When Eleanor told him how much money he would make, Marcus almost fell out of his chair. It was 3 times what he made as a janitor. More than enough to pay for a nice apartment, good food, and Emma's college education. "Are you sure this is right?" he asked, looking at the number on the paper. "I am sure," Eleanor said with a smile. "Good music teachers are valuable, Marcus, and you are going to be a very good music teacher." She explained that he would have 4 weeks of training before the music center opened. He would learn about teaching methods, child development, and how to manage a classroom. The company would pay for everything, including books and materials. "There is one more thing," Eleanor said, pulling out another paper. "I have been thinking about what you said about not having finished your degree. The company has a program that pays for employees to go back to school. If you want, you can take classes in the evenings and finish your music education degree." Marcus stared at the paper. Northwestern University was listed as one of the partner schools, the same university that had offered him a scholarship 20 years ago. "I do not know what to say," Marcus said quietly. "This is more than I ever dreamed of." "You deserve it," Eleanor said. "You have worked hard and sacrificed for your family. Now it is time for good things to come to you." Marcus signed all the papers with a shaky hand. When he was done, Eleanor stood up and shook his hand again. "Welcome to the Henderson Corporate Music Program, Director Rodriguez," she said. Marcus walked home in a daze. Director Rodriguez, he had a title now. He was not just Marcus the janitor anymore. He was Director Rodriguez, and he was going to teach children how to make music. When Emma came home from school, Marcus was waiting for her with a big smile on his face. "Daddy, why are you so happy?" she asked, dropping her backpack by the door. "I have some news, sweetheart," Marcus said, kneeling down to her level. "Daddy got a new job." Emma's eyes got wide. "Really? What kind of job?" "I am going to be a music teacher," Marcus said. "I am going to teach children how to play piano." Emma jumped up and down with excitement. "You know how to play piano, Daddy?" Marcus laughed. "Yes, baby girl. I used to play piano when I was younger. I was pretty good at it. Will you teach me?" Emma asked eagerly. "Of course I will," Marcus said, hugging her tight. "You can be one of my first students." That night, Marcus called his parents and told them the news. His mother cried with happiness, and his father said he was proud of him. They had never stopped believing that Marcus had made the right choice all those years ago, but they were excited to see him return to music. "Maria would be so happy," his mother said through her tears. "She always said your music was too beautiful to stay hidden forever." The next 2 weeks passed quickly. Marcus finished his job as a janitor, cleaning the building one last time. On his final night, he went to the conference room and sat at the piano where everything had changed. "Thank you," he whispered to the instrument. "Thank you for helping me remember who I am." He played Chopin's Nocturne one more time, softly so no one would hear. But this time, he did not feel sad about the dreams he had given up. He felt hopeful about the dreams that were just beginning. The training program was challenging, but exciting. Marcus learned about different teaching methods and how to work with children of various ages. He studied child psychology and music theory. He practiced conducting and learned how to organize a music program. The other teachers in the program were impressed by his knowledge and skill. Many of them had been teaching for years, but they could see that Marcus had something special. He understood music not just as notes on a page, but as a way to express feelings and connect with others. "You have a gift," said Mrs. Williams, an elderly piano teacher who was helping with the training. "The children are going to love learning from you." A month later, the Henderson Community Music Center opened its doors. It was a beautiful building, with bright, cheerful rooms full of pianos, violins, and other instruments. There was a small concert hall where students could perform, and practice rooms where they could work on their music. Marcus's office was small but perfect. It had a window that looked out on a playground where children were laughing and playing. His desk had a nameplate that said, "Marcus Rodriguez, Program Director." On the wall, he hung 2 pictures. One was of Emma, smiling in her school photo. The other was of Maria, taken on their wedding day when they were both young and full of dreams. The first day of classes, 50 children ages 6 to 16 came to the music center. Some were excited, some were nervous, and some were not sure. They wanted to be there at all. But Marcus greeted each one with a warm smile and gentle encouragement. "Welcome to our music family," he told them. "Here, everyone is special. Everyone has something beautiful to share." Emma was in the first group of students. She sat in the front row, beaming with pride at her father. When Marcus played a song to demonstrate, she clapped the loudest. "My daddy is the best piano player in the world," she announced to the other children. Making Marcus blush as the weeks went by, Marcus discovered that Eleanor had been right. He was a natural teacher. The children loved him because he was patient and kind, and because he truly believed that every child could learn to make beautiful music. He taught them scales and arpeggios, but he also taught them that music was about more than technique. He showed them how music could help them express their feelings when words were not enough. He taught them that making mistakes was part of learning, and that the most important thing was to keep trying. Some of the children came from families like Marcus's own. Their parents worked multiple jobs and struggled to pay the bills. But in the music center, these children found something that made them feel special and talented. One little boy named David reminded Marcus of himself at that age. David had never touched a piano before, but his fingers seemed to know exactly where to go on the keys. Within a few weeks, he was playing simple songs, and within a few months, he was ready for more advanced pieces. "You have real talent," Marcus told him one day after class. "If you keep practicing, you could be really good at this." David's eyes lit up. "Good enough to be a teacher like you?" Marcus smiled and put his hand on the boy's shoulder. 6 months after the Henderson Community Music Center opened, Marcus stood in front of his advanced piano class, watching his students practice the piece they would perform at their first recital. The room was filled with the sound of 20 young pianists working through Chopin's famous Nocturne, the same piece that had changed Marcus's life that night in the conference room. Emma sat at the piano closest to Marcus's desk. At 8 years old, she was one of the youngest students in the advanced class, but her natural talent and daily practice with her father had earned her a place there. Her small fingers moved across the keys with confidence and grace, playing the beautiful melody that had once brought her parents together. "Very good, Emma," Marcus said softly, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Remember to let the melody sing above the accompaniment." Emma nodded and played the passage again, this time with even more expression. Around the room, other children were working just as hard. David, the little boy who reminded Marcus of himself, was now playing pieces that most children took years to master. Maria Santos, a shy 12-year-old whose family had immigrated from Mexico, had discovered that music helped her express feelings she could not put into English words. Each child had their own story, their own struggles, their own dreams, but here in the music center, they all shared something beautiful, the joy of making music together. The recital was scheduled for the following weekend, and Marcus was both excited and nervous. This would be the first time these children performed for an audience, and he wanted everything to be perfect for them. They had worked so hard, and they deserved to feel proud of what they had accomplished. Eleanor Chun had insisted that the recital be held in the concert hall of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. "These children deserve to perform on a real stage," she had said. "They deserve to feel like the artists they are." As Marcus watched his students practice, he thought about how much his life had changed in just 6 months. Not only was he teaching music again, but he was also taking evening classes at Northwestern University, finally working toward the degree he had abandoned 20 years earlier. It was challenging to balance teaching, parenting, and studying, but Marcus had never been happier. Every morning he woke up excited to go to work. Every evening he helped Emma with her homework and practiced piano with her. Every weekend they spent time together as a family, sometimes visiting museums or parks, sometimes just staying home and making music. The apartment Marcus and Emma lived in now was bigger and brighter than their old place. Emma had her own room with space for a small piano that the music program had provided for practice at home. Marcus had a study where he could prepare lessons and work on his college assignments, but the most important change was not in their living situation. The most important change was in Marcus himself. For 18 years he had been surviving, working hard but never truly living. Now he was alive again, using his gifts and sharing his passion with the world. On the day of the recital, Marcus arrived at Symphony Hall early to make sure everything was ready. The stage was set with a beautiful grand piano, much like the Steinway that had started this whole journey. Red velvet curtains framed the stage, and elegant chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Parents and family members began arriving an hour before the performance. Marcus greeted each family personally, thanking them for supporting their children's musical education. Many of these parents worked multiple jobs and struggled to make ends meet, but they had made time to come and celebrate their children's achievements. Eleanor Chun arrived 30 minutes before the recital began. She was accompanied by several members of the Henderson corporate board, including some of the junior executives who had been in the conference room that fateful night 6 months earlier. Brad Hutchins approached Marcus with a nervous smile. "Mr. Rodriguez, he said formally, I wanted to thank you again for what you did for us that night. You taught us something important about not judging people. Marcus shook his hand warmly. We all make mistakes, Brad. The important thing is that we learn from them. My whole family is here tonight, Brad continued. I told them about your amazing playing, and they wanted to hear your students perform. As the audience filled the concert hall, Marcus felt a familiar flutter of nerves in his stomach. But this was different from the stage fright he had felt as a young musician. This was the nervous excitement of a parent watching his children take their first steps into the world. The recital began with the youngest students playing simple pieces they had learned in their first months of lessons. 6-year-old Sophie played Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star with such concentration and pride that the audience gave her a standing ovation. As the evening progressed, the pieces became more complex and the performances more sophisticated. David played a Bach invention with technical precision and musical sensitivity that amazed everyone in the audience. Maria performed a Spanish folk song that she had arranged herself, bringing tears to her grandmother's eyes. Finally, it was time for Emma to perform. Marcus introduced her with a voice full of pride and love. Our final performer tonight is very special to me, he said, looking out at the audience. Emma Rodriguez is my daughter, and she represents everything this program stands for. She shows us that with dedication, support, and love, every child can achieve beautiful things. Emma walked onto the stage in a white dress that Marcus had bought specially for this occasion. She looked so small on the big stage, but she walked with confidence to the piano bench and adjusted it to the right height, just as her father had taught her. She placed her hands on the keys and began to play Clair de Lune, the piece that had been her mother's favorite. Marcus had taught it to her slowly, carefully, making sure she understood not just the notes but the emotion behind them. As Emma played, Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. This was his daughter, his beautiful Emma, playing the song that had once brought him and Maria together. The melody floated through the concert hall like a prayer, touching every heart in the audience. When Emma finished, the silence lasted for a long moment before the audience erupted in applause. People were standing, clapping, and wiping their eyes. In the front row, Eleanor Shen was crying openly, remembering her own musical dreams and seeing them fulfilled through these children. After all the students had performed, Marcus took the stage one final time. Thank you for supporting these wonderful young musicians, he said to the audience. 6 months ago, many of these children had never touched a piano. Tonight, you heard them perform music that will stay with them for the rest of their lives. He paused and looked out at the faces in the audience, parents, grandparents, siblings, and community members who had come to celebrate these children's achievements. Music has the power to change lives, Marcus continued. Not because it makes us famous or wealthy, but because it teaches us to express our hearts, to connect with others, and to find beauty even in difficult times. These children have learned that they have something valuable to share with the world. That knowledge will serve them no matter what paths they choose in life. The audience gave Marcus and his students another standing ovation. As people began to leave the concert hall, many stopped to congratulate Marcus and tell him how moved they had been by the performances. Later that evening, after all the families had gone home, Marcus and Emma sat alone on the stage of Symphony Hall. Emma was still wearing her white dress, and she was holding the small bouquet of flowers that Eleanor had given her after her performance. "Daddy," Emma said, leaning against Marcus's shoulder, "do you think Mama heard me play tonight?" Marcus put his arm around his daughter and looked up at the beautiful ceiling of the concert hall. "I think she did, sweetheart. I think she was very proud of you." "She was proud of you too," Emma said. "I could feel it when you were talking to everyone." "She was happy that you are making music again?" Marcus smiled and kissed the top of Emma's head. "How did you get so wise, little girl?" "I learned it from you," Emma said simply. "You taught me that love makes us strong and music makes us happy." As they sat together on the stage where Emma had just performed her first real concert, Marcus thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. 18 years ago, he had been a young man with big dreams who thought he had to choose between music and family. Tonight, he understood that he had never really given up either one. His love for Emma had made him a better man and a better musician. His music made him a better father and teacher. Everything was connected like the notes in a beautiful symphony. "What happens next, Daddy?" Emma asked sleepily. Marcus looked around the empty concert hall, thinking about all the students who would come through the music program in the years ahead. He thought about the degree he was working toward, the lessons he would teach, and the music he would continue to share with the world. "Next, we keep making music," he said. "We help more children discover how wonderful it feels to express themselves. Through art, we build a community where everyone feels valued and heard." "And we stay together always?" Emma asked. "Always," Marcus promised. "You and me making beautiful music together."